So hello, welcome everybody to our webinar today. There's still more people joining us as we speak, but we'll get started now as it's 11 o'clock. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Andrea McCall. I work in the Life Sciences team at Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and I'm based in Inverness. I'm just going to start with a little bit of housekeeping before I explain a little bit more about Highlands and Islands Enterprise. So it's great to all have you here today, and just to keep it quite quiet in the background while our speakers are talking, it would be great if everyone could mute themselves, and you can put your cameras on if you're speaking. Otherwise, obviously, feel free to put yourself kind of off camera. We will have a very interactive webinar. We will use a tool called Slido. So you should all have an invitation in your emails to join Slido. And there's a few questions that we're asking you. And there's also an opportunity for you to ask questions of our speakers. So it's a two-way conversation using Slido. So please feel free to put your questions in and respond to the questions we're asking you. So my colleague Helen has just also put the link to Slido in the chat box there. We're recording the webinar, so please bear in mind if you don't want your face to be seen, then just stay off camera. Okay, let me start with a little bit of introduction from Highlands and Islands Enterprise, the organization I work for. So we are the Economic and Community Development Agency for the North and the West of Scotland. So we cover quite a large region, includes a lot of coastline and a lot of islands, and we support various organizations based within that region. So we provide funding and advice to support organizations to grow, develop new products and approaches, employ more people and find new customers. We have a set of local offices that spread across the region, and we also have region-wide sector teams. And I sit in one of those sector teams. I am within the Life Sciences and Blue Economy sector team. So today we're going to cover a few different things. One of the things we want to do is we want to talk about the value that innovation brings to agriculture and aquaculture as a sector and to the businesses within it. We want to obviously be inspired by our two guest speakers, Teresa and Amy, who we will introduce in a minute. It's great to see so many of you joining today. So we're also hoping to kind of build a bit of a sense of community across the group today and beyond. And sorry, could anyone please go on mute? I think there's definitely at least one person who hasn't put their microphone on mute. Could you please do that now? We also want to gauge the appetite for maybe future events with similar themes to the event today. So I'll come on to that later on. And just coming back to innovation for a second, we also have a region-wide innovation team that specializes in innovation support, and we're hosting the event jointly with them today, and I will give a little bit of an overview of what innovation support is available through them at the end of the webinar. So for today's agenda, I will ask Claire, my co-host, to maybe start sharing the slides. So Claire is joining us from AAB Consulting, and she will be your host for today. So she will take us through the agenda and introduce our speakers in due course. She will start with a little bit of scene setting for us, and then after that we will go into our two speaking slots. So we will have Teresa and Amy joining us, and then there will be an opportunity for a Q&A session with them. So that's when we're asking you to submit questions using Slido. And then we'll finish up with a little bit about innovation support. So that's both Claire and me who will speak then and tell you a little bit more about that. And we're hoping to close at 12:30. So let's see if we can keep it all to time. but we will start with the scene setting, which will be done by Claire. So Claire, over to you.
Claire, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was very diligently adhering to Andrea's instructions. Can I just double check that you can both hear me and see the slide?
Yes, it's all fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Andrea. So good morning. My name is Claire. I work as a consultant at AAB, which some of you may have heard of. We're a UK-wide and indeed international professional services company born and bred in Aberdeen. So I am working with Andrea today to help bring you the webinar. So in the context of the subject today, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context, which I am sure all of you are very much aware of, with regards to the kind of critical importance of women-led businesses within Scottish agriculture and aquaculture. Whilst there isn't a lot of recent data with regards to economic contribution, we know that women-owned businesses contributed nearly £9 billion to the Scottish economy in 2018. And interestingly, this was an increase of 76% from 2012. So there is obviously a significant impetus and growth and I guess confidence around the number of female-led businesses within the sectors. But more importantly, that has created a huge amount of jobs. So at this point in time, which I appreciate is over 6 years ago, that was nearly a quarter of a million jobs in the Scottish Highlands and Scottish regions. So whilst we could say that there's a little bit of a quiet revolution going on, whether we say that, what we can say is that female-led businesses are definitely starting to reshape the business landscape in Scotland within these sectors, and really starting to contribute to revitalising local and regional economies. It's obvious that some of these sectors have been traditionally male dominated, but the industry is obviously now becoming far more accessible to women, which is great to see. And one of the things that we have looked at is the connection between current drivers within the sectors and business industry in Scotland to what is understood to be key skills that women founders or female founders tend to have. So some of the key drivers within the sector that we've identified include things like the growing economic significance of Scotland's natural assets to the overall economy, the drive around sustainable practices and environmental stewardship, some of the drivers for growth within the aquaculture sector and associated kind of health concerns, a focus on policy regulation and enhanced governance within these sectors, so both agriculture and aquaculture. An increased focus on climate change and resilience to that, and obviously underpinned by technological advancement, digital transformation and innovation. There has also in the last sort of 10 years been a lot more integration between some of these sectors with the tourism sector, and that has had a positive kind of knock-on effect to community engagement. And generally within the kind of wider macro context of the world, there is a huge amount of pressure on business leaders generally around leadership, strategy and business acumen to ensure that we can continue to contribute as a viable economy. In addition, we have seen things like forestry expansion and diverse use of land. And again, from a leadership perspective, a focus on adaptability and innovation. So these are just some of the kind of key drivers that we have identified insofar as the agriculture and aquaculture sectors in Scotland. And what would be interesting at this point, just to get people thinking, is to if you could have a look at question 1 on Slido, which is just to ask you what key drivers are most significantly impacting your business or your potential business at the moment. So if you could add some comments there, that would be interesting to kind of understand a little bit. That might be some of these drivers that we've outlined here today, or you might have some other things that we haven't mentioned so far. So if you would be able to kind of click on the ones that feel, just having a look at the scores there. So that was quite interesting. So certainly a lot of focus around the aquaculture sector growth and health concerns, equally technological innovation and digital transformation, climate change and resilience, as well as sustainable practices. But actually, it feels like most of those are obviously relevant to many of you that are on the webinar today, which is quite interesting. Thank you very much for populating that. So sort of moving forwards, the other thing that we have looked at is some of the, and this is obviously a generalization, but some of the kind of natural skills that female founders tend to have. So we have aligned these with some of these drivers in terms of the key skills required to address some of these drivers. So in terms of supporting the maintenance and growth of the value of Scotland's natural assets, that obviously takes a huge amount of strategic thinking and financial acumen. From a sustainability perspective, we know that female founders have a resonance with sustainability problem solving and adaptability. That is also, those skills, in addition to people management, are very relevant for looking at some of the growth drivers and health concerns around the aquaculture sector. Strategic thinking, adaptability, and communication skills are obviously very important when it comes to putting in place robust regulation, policy, and improving governance. Again, skills relating to adaptability, sustainability, and innovation are very important when it comes to accommodating the needs of climate change and resilience problems in that area. And a combination of things like innovation, financial acumen, and strategic thinking is obviously really important when it comes to technological innovation, advancement, and digital transformation. I noticed actually that I think that there was very low kind of engagement with that on that last Slido question around the integration with the tourism and community engagement. But irrespective of that, that obviously creates a lot of kind of community engagement, communication skills, people management, relationship management, as well as the sort of financial prowess to ensure things are successful. And again, with regards to forestry expansion and diversifying the use of land, all of these skills around problem solving in sustainability questions and finding a way to adapt and be agile in that area are very important. Notwithstanding some of the kind of more generic pressures on business leaders around strategy development and innovation. So what would also be interesting is just as the next Slido question is if you could also enter which skills you feel are the ones where you maybe feel slightly out of your comfort zone, or certainly the ones that where you might require some assistance moving forward. This would obviously be really useful information to the Highlands and Islands enterprise team. So if you could complete that, please, that would be great. Just give everyone a couple of minutes. Okay. So I'm actually just having a slight issue with myself logging back into Slido, but if you could just bear with me 2 seconds. There we go.
I'll have a quick look for you, Claire. It looks
Yes,
like
thank you.
financial acumen is coming at us the top scorer on this one, closely followed by innovation and communication. But all of the options has received some scores, so that is quite interesting to see. So thank you everyone for completing that for us.
Excellent, thank you. So I think this information will be really useful in terms of the kind of innovation webinar and event content moving forward. So without further ado, I'd like to move on to introducing you to our first speaker, Teresa, Chief Sustainability Officer at Gale Force Group. So Teresa, if you can just let me know when you'd like me to click forward, I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. If you can just put the presentation, that's grand. It's very nice to be here with all the people. It's nice that you mix the two industries. Thanks for that. I'm very used to just talking to aquaculture people and with aquaculture people, so really pleased to be here. So I was asked to give a little bit of a perspective, a global perspective of innovation in aquaculture and also my own experience here. So I hope I managed to do that with this presentation. Claire, if you want to. I will say that there is a slide that I will introduce myself a little bit more, but as Claire, well, maybe I do it, and so we save some time. So I am working now as a Chief Sustainability Officer, which is, I have to say, one kind of a new positions in the companies now, and they're appointing people for these specific roles, which is very important. My background is in biology and a PhD in biology as well, plant physiology and biochemistry. So I ended up working with fish by working in research first with algae and a bit of aquaculture, and then I ended up in the industry now, which has been 14 years at least. So I'm totally a fish person now. How is it going, Claire, with the presentation? Not loading.
Just give me 2 seconds. I think it was maybe just the animation on that slide was a bit of a surprise to my laptop, but just give me 2 seconds and I'll pop this back up. Sorry.
I'll carry on anyway, so then we can just the first few slides. It was a little bit to introduce aquaculture and just to point that aquaculture is my main work has been in salmon industry and fish but it's not only fish, is also mollusks like shellfish farming, crustaceans like lobsters and langoustines, and of course the seaweed industry, which is an emerging industry in Scotland. So I think it's a very important one to mention. However, it's not where I can tell you more about it, and I will focus on what I know, which is salmon and trout, but fish industry. So next slide. I wanted to explain here a little bit of the responsibilities. The aquaculture have a big responsibility with a growing population now, and annual supply of from the aquaculture sector must surpass what is the fisheries now. So there is big responsibilities, but also that comes with a lot of challenges because we need to increase production, and there's a lot of things we have to look after. We need to produce healthy food, as all the industries. We need to look after our animals, and we've got a big environmental responsibility. We're using our lochs, our oceans, and it's not easy to compromise everything sometimes. There's a social responsibility, and I think aquaculture takes that into account because we use resources, community resources. So there is a social responsibility to give back, and that's established on the producers as well. And then there is the responsibility and the challenge to correct what social misperception on the aquaculture, as when I go out of my industry, the questions I get asked is always about how many, about mortalities or outbreaks and things like that. And that I have to say that aquaculture has a lot of problems. There's a lot of resources put into resolve it. And many of those images are out of context and unproperly explained. These are actually responsibilities that take us to a lot of research and innovation. Claire, if we can change slide. And I don't know if you've heard of the blue transformation. Is now everywhere. Is a global initiative by the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO to enhance sustainability, productivity, and resilience of aquatic food. And that is a lot. It seems if you analyze every single word of it, there is a lot of work to do. This, of course, aligns with the United Nations sustainability goals. And this, I don't know, well, this also applies to Scotland, and that's where I'm going to focus a little bit more next. Our salmon is produced in, those are the producer countries are Scotland, Norway, Canada, Chile, also New Zealand. But where is the biggest producer of salmon is Norway. And the reason why I'm saying this is been one of the leads of innovation in this industry. However, Scotland, where I will focus a little bit more, has not been left behind with innovation. Sorry, Claire, if you can just maybe click, there's a few ones coming, but maybe if you want to just click them all, it's fine. So there's been innovation, general innovation in environmental and welfare technologies. I'm talking about at least the last 14, 15 years that I've been working. I've seen innovation in the welfare, trying to use what we call cleaner fish, which is all the fish that eats parasites of the salmon, to avoid the use of chemicals, other physical treatments of the salmon as well to avoid that. Post small, so growing the fish bigger as well to reduce the time they are in the sea, where we face bigger challenges. And that's, for example, one of the Highlands and Islands projects with us as well. Genetics and breeding. So there is selective breeding for disease resistance in feed and nutrition as well. There's functional feeds. There is been insects adding to insect protein, adding to the fish meal. Smart farming. There is automated feeding to avoid waste of food. There is sensors where we measure different environmental conditions. Semi-closed cages to technology that is being developed to avoid that any of the waste goes to the sea. I think we can say that the aquaculture industry is actually recording so much information in the sea that is going to be an important source of data at some point in climate change or in the sea conditions. Waste management. There's a lot of research in multi-trophic farming, for example, or biofuels, or one of the innovations I'm involved is the use of the fish that cannot be used by the salmon industry because they're too small. So there's a lot of innovation in these areas, and there's a lot of policies in Scotland supporting these changes and projects supported by Highlands and Islands and SEGs that are playing very important roles on these changes. Next, and oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, the certifications. So there is ASC and RSPCA certifications as well that are very important too, and they're kind of managing the way we do things. On the next slide, just click. Just a bit of the background. I did biology and plant biochemistry. Next click. I started on the industry in 2011, and that's where I started to work for Maui, which is one of the bigger producers of salmon in the world, not only in Scotland. And that's where here I'll start to talk a little bit more the innovation I've been working in. And since I started, next slide, Claire. One of the first things I worked on, it was developing a new non-lethal testing for salmon. One of the challenges we have in the industry is gill health problems, which is increasing, and one of the problems is the amoeba. So this is just an example that shows how the industry is developing their own innovation. In this case, was all financed and funded by Maui, with the idea of let's find a non-lethal test that we can face this problem. It was not only an innovation in the lab, which I was working on directly, it was also try to find a monitoring routine. How do we monitor these fish that we maximize and optimize and understand the data, and how then we translate that into a treatment that can save fish and increase welfare. So there's a lot of innovation happening. This is only an example in the industry. Next slide. While I was in Maui, I was involved in a vaccine for this amoeba, the development of new blood biomarkers as well in the fish, the same as we have for humans, just try to understand what some blood biomarkers will mean on the fish. So basically, again, I think Scotland has been one of the most, the leading salmon producers that where we've been developing more non-lethal methods for testing salmon, and that's one of them. I was involved in how to try to understand fish stress and metabolomics as well to see how we can optimize the time we transfer fish from freshwater to seawater. During this time also it's been a lot of innovation or projects like the Gill Health Initiative that was born or started in 2013 in Stirling. As I would say that the characteristics of the innovation in Scotland, or my experience, is a continuous collaboration between industry and research institute. This is a slide full of things that has happened, but this is just a minimal selection of what you could find on lots of projects that keep happening, and names like SEG or Institute of Aquaculture in Stirling and Moredom are some of the organizations we've been working with. Next slide. I would like to say with this one is that the innovation that happens in the aquaculture is also a lot of it's been useful for the conservation of wild salmon, and we've worked and we continue to work as industry. Salmon Scotland has a fund to work on the conservation. So, and a lot of knowledge. There's a bit of transfer knowledge. And there's been a lot of development on, for example, fish health that we can now, as from the industry, we can also help the conservation. Next one. In 2018, I started to work for Pathogen, which is a Norwegian laboratory Here, when I finished in January this year, it was a great experience as well, setting up a new business from Norway into Scotland with the support of Highlands and Islands here. It was a very important part of that. This business unit has grown now, and we are able to, Pathogen is able to offer services to all the fish farms producers, to all the companies. And this it's been a few years of developing new tests internally within the company. There's been machine learning now for histopathology in the fish. I don't know. Sometimes I think there's more development in fish that it could be at least for human. At least for the services that we get in the surgery. I think fish gets a little bit best service, and developing of new vaccines, and a very interesting time where there was a lot of transfer working for a Norwegian company but being based in Scotland, and where we could just transfer that knowledge, and Norway brought a lot of knowledge into Scotland, but I can say that there was the other way around as well. So it's interesting time in innovation here. Next slide. Tiny fish, that's the other project I am currently involved, and as you can see, this is part of the I'm co-founder of this company. Every fish counts, that's our motto. And if you pass the next slide. Here we found, my partner and I found a problem. There is a deselection of fish from OBA till we transfer the fish to seawater. The smallest are discarded in the fishing industry. So this is healthy fish being removed. Next slide. And the survivability in the sea, as I was saying, is one of our biggest challenges, is decreasing. Therefore, the producers are focusing on transferring the best in the freshwater. So this it's been a problem, a challenge for the industry. Next slide. And it's one of the innovation projects that I'm involved. And this is Ace Aquatech, a technology company, developed this machine to kill this fish by electrocution, so we don't have to use chemicals anymore. And what we are focusing, my partner and now here, and I think one of the important points here is that not all innovation go through really high technology. Sometimes you can have a big impact with the innovation of the idea. So what we're trying to do with this small fish is to find a market. Next slide, Claire. Well, I think I explained this previously. Basically, now with this standard, what we're doing is harvesting the fish. We're not deselecting it. So we're harvesting this fish, and our solution is to find them a market. And in the next slide, we have a few examples of where we're trying. We've had Tiny Fish has had support from Highlands and Islands, from Scottish Enterprise, and got a few prizes for sustainability innovation as well. And we've managed to put one of the products in as pet food. Again, this is we're working now in human food as well, and some chefs have had some trials now, and we got quite a lot of good feedback. So now, hopefully, one day you will see little salmon on the supermarkets because we can eat them, and that's part of the sustainability, and I think part of the support that we have had as a company because of the targets of the government as well on trying to focus on zero waste and sustainability. Next, last not least, is Secure Farm, where I'm working now. Next slide. This is part. This is a project where we're working on developing set of wells and cages that they will be placed in the sea, but they will be closed. So nowadays the salmon is farmed in open cages. Therefore, we have some environmental challenges. And I have to say, aquaculture is a very regulated industry. So it's not that everything goes and everything works. And so it's limited, the biomass you can farm, etc. But still, we can be better. And if there is room for improvement, I'm pleased to say that aquaculture is putting a lot of efforts on it. This is one of them, and the concept is to have these closed cages where we can actually remove the waste out of these cages and do something with the waste. So with the idea that of not sediment goes into the seabed. Next slide. This is innovation and requires a lot of phases on it. So there is a biological model that we are working on developing, and this is based to make sure that the fish has the right environment within these wells. Environmentally and fish welfare are 100% being taken into account. There is fluids models that are being run, material testing to understand what's the best way to what is the best material to use for every single thing. So it's a very exciting innovation, and this is happening again in Scotland with Gale Force in this case. Next slide. Of course, the idea, as I was explaining, the challenges that the industry has. So the idea is to protect this fish from all these external challenges, which is sea lice, microjelly, and therefore provide also a barrier for predators, and increase the survivability, the survival of the fish. So that's, and of course, create inside the well the perfect conditions as well for the fish and their welfare. And that's kind of part of my job, to make sure that is happening, as well as my background on fish health is my major input in this project. So those are a few examples on what is. I know that Scottish industry, Scotland, and aquaculture has been working on. There's a lot of things that needs to be done. There's a lot of room for improvement. There is support. So and a few examples of what I've been doing, and I'm still involved. The last slide is, as I saw, it's a lot of women, and this a little bit about women. Is there is a group, a leading professional network for women in Scottish aquaculture, WISA. Is our mission and is to raise awareness of the women that are already working in the industry, provide a network, and of course support the industry, as we need a lot of people power in the industry, and a lot of more women could join. There is you can find out more in the web. So if you just Google women in Scottish aquaculture, and also in LinkedIn, you can find and see how WISA can support you as well. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. That was absolutely fascinating. There's so much information, and what an incredible career that you've had. So thank you for putting that together and for sharing it in such a short space of time as well. So we do have the Slido open. So when we have spoken to Amy, there will be a Q&A session. So please feel free. The Slido is open now. If you have any questions from Teresa's talk just now, please update that as we talk. So we have some good questions to talk about in the Q&A session. But from Teresa now, I would like to introduce you to Amy, just to understand a little bit about Bigton Farm, Amy, which I know is a huge passion of yours personally. So I think just to kind of kick things off, it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about the story around Bigton Farm and how it has come to be what it is today so far in its journey.
Thank you very much, Claire. Yes, thank you for asking me to speak today. So Bigton Farm has been in the Budge family for 5 generations. My great-granddad bought the farm from the laird, and me and my sister farm here today with the help of our family. My dad died in 2014 when I was 17, and then me and my sister decided to take on the farm. It was a tragic accident and I was so young, but it was a big decision to make, and I knew my heart was in farming. I was all set to go to agriculture college, so it was a big step, but I'm glad we did it. And with the help of my family and neighbours around us, then we've got the farm to what it is today. We farm beef cows, sheep, and grow some barley, which is quite unusual for Shetland, being the northern island off Scotland, but it works for us. And we're also lucky that our mom had a farm in her family as well, so we've taken both the farms and brought them together.
That's incredible. And you do this with your sister primarily?
That's right, yeah. Me and my sister set up our business in 2018, and it's been really successful since. Very
good. And in terms of your kind of, I'm sure in that kind of environment, you, despite the success that you've already had, I'm sure there are lots of ideas moving forward. So, and lots of new things that you can do in the future. So what is your kind of vision for the farm, and what do you think are the key opportunities in the marketplace for how it's going to, you know, be maintained or grow or be just sustain its level of operation in the future?
Yeah, the future is certainly quite uncertain for farming, especially with our reliance on subsidies from the government and the ever-changing policy that they keep coming with. So it's quite a stressful time, but we're hoping our vision for the farm is to keep it self-sustainable, both economically and environmentally, by using the natural resources we have, like growing feed for our animals, rather than buying in the feed, to reduce our carbon and freight costs that come with that. One innovation we started was selling beef locally. So we usually sold our calves at the marts in Lerwick or Aberdeen. But one year we started selling beef boxes to customers on Shetland. We use a local butcher and then we deliver this to the people. And I'm just very proud of this, and that it means that we're adding value to our product, and it allows us to set the price ourselves rather than relying on the very volatile market of selling beef and lamb, and on the global market as well. It's also such a nice feeling keeping the beef on Shetland and seeing our repeat customers with the good reviews. It's been a really rewarding journey. We also like to encourage young people into agriculture. We do this through work experience placements. We've got a girl here for 2 weeks at the moment, and we usually have some helpers in for lambing time as well. So I'm a big advocate for that, especially girls as well. I'm so proud to be a role model for them, hopefully, in agriculture. I know on the mainland of Scotland it's quite different, but here in Shetland there's been a lot of women in crofting and farming, and I feel that we're hoping that there is a change towards more women having a place in agriculture. And we also like to show the public where their food comes from. We do this through social media. We have quite a big following on Facebook and Instagram. So we like to put posts up of just general day-to-day things and hopefully give people a real life version of farming. Yes. We also love to get the public on the farm through school visits or open farm Sunday as well. It's really nice when they leave with lots of new knowledge and that they understand where their food comes from, and hopefully making them realize that it's so much better to support local and farms through butchers and buying local meats at the supermarket.
Brilliant. So many of your customers are the community which is supporting your business, which must give you a great feeling in terms of that kind of community support. You mentioned, Amy, and I know that you're a sort of proud promoter of young women within the agricultural space. I'm sure from what you have suggested already that it has been both exciting and also challenging at times. So what would be the things that you would share with the audience today in terms of some key things that you've learned that might help others on their journey?
I would certainly say put yourself out there, accept all opportunities when you're young, but then when you've got a few years behind you, certainly look to see what the best opportunities are for you and learn to say that no is okay to say. I certainly know that myself, that I loved saying yes and we'd put ourselves out there for everything, but now we need to realize that we don't have time for everything. So, and to also capitalize on those opportunities. When you've had so many when you're a bit younger, then it's good to start to realize your value as well, your self-worth. So really, I know I'm bad at it as well. We're always like, yes, come along, but really it's important that you realize it's the best for your business to put a value on that and start charging. Certainly from going to college in Aberdeen, it was brilliant getting away and being around like-minded people. It's when I was growing up, there wasn't as many people interested in farming that was my age, but now there's certainly a big shift. Joining Young Farmers when I was south had a huge impact, and we managed to start a Young Farmers Club on Shetland. So that has been amazing, just to get people meeting up and discussing their different challenges and what's going on. So that's been really rewarding as well. And another good piece of advice would be getting yourself a mentor, someone that you can speak to at any time. I've got plenty of old men in my phone book now that I phone up every day, and it's just brilliant that they listen and give me advice. And really, yeah, just having that network of support around you. Our neighbours are brilliant. We help each other. So being open to most opportunities and, yeah, really putting yourself out there, try new things. It's the little changes that can sometimes make the biggest impact.
Of course.
So
very good. Well, I think that's thank you for sharing those things. I think certainly the saying no is probably one that we could all do with reminding ourselves how important that is, and also placing a value on yourself and your business, I think, at any stage of the journey. So thank you very much, Amy. That was brilliant. I'd like to invite Teresa back now for our kind of Q&A. Teresa, if you wouldn't mind putting your camera back on, I would just like to have a look at any questions that we might have. Andrea, are you able to let us know if we have any there?
Yes, so the audience is proving a bit shy today, so I'm going to get us started with a couple of questions, and I might inspire some of you in the audience to put your own question forward, or even just any comments you might have, shared experiences, or anything you want to add to the discussion. So I'll start with a question for Teresa. So, you know, obviously you've given us great insight into all the different roles you've had and how many different things you've been involved with. I guess I'm wondering, you know, have you got any top tips for anyone who wants to start something new, has come up with a new idea of how to do something differently? Like, what would be your top tip or your top 3 tips? What do you need to get to make this happen for you?
Her entry song was Candy Man, so she went around.
I can hear someone in the background there. Could someone please put their microphone on mute? Thank you.
Hi, Andrea. Well, in terms of trying to start your own business, having a partner has been key for me because of the sharing of the time, of the ideas, and not being alone. So finding someone, but if you're alone, because it's your idea and that's the only one taking it forward, finding a mentor, or mentors, many of them. And what has been very useful has been to get to know. For me, for example, for Tiny Face, it's been very useful that I came from all the past jobs, and I knew already the support that Scotland had. So I could very quickly explore that for what it will be my own company in this case, so like Highlands and Islands or Scottish Enterprise. So finding a partner, a mentor, or and explore and ask all of these institutions that can help to start projects. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Teresa. Sounds very good advice to me. So now we've had the first audience question in as well. Thank you very much. So this is all anonymous, so we don't know who's asked the question, but it's a question for Amy. So, Amy, the question is, do you feel that as a woman in agriculture, it has been a benefit? Do you feel you're treated differently? So I guess coming back to some of the comments you made before.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I feel it's a bit different because on Shetland everybody has been so open and the community is really engaged with us. I feel like they don't treat us any different, but just for like a few jobs and things, I do feel like we've had to prove ourselves. It is still a very male dominated industry, so when they see a small woman coming along, then they might have their doubts, but I've enjoyed it. It's good to have a little challenge, and it's about having confidence in yourself. I know it is daunting when it's a room full of men, but you just have to have confidence in yourself, and they're always open to listening. So I've not had too much problems with it, but it's all about confidence.
Thanks, Amy. And I guess a follow-up question from me would be, like, when you first took, you know, the business over and you made it your own, did you encounter many people who you know, were surprised you took that on, or did everyone, you know, just accept the fact that you were best placed to take it forward?
Yeah, I think some people were certainly surprised, especially how young we were. But like I said, the community really got behind us. We were actually a monitor farm as well for 4 years in 2016. So we opened our farm to the public in Shetland, and we had 6 meetings a year. So I guess that was another good thing to say, like, we're here, we're ready to farm, and but we also engaged with the community and allowed them, which was really positive for Shetland. It got specialist speakers up, and it allowed the crofters all to come together, which we've not had on Shetland. So I think that was another really good thing, just to prove that women can do it.
Thanks, Amy. And the person who asked the question has come back with a comment to say that she agrees with you that it's a male-dominated industry, and that she, I guess, gets frustrated with the fact that she's treated as a farmer's wife despite being the main farmer. And so I'm sure you and your sister kind of have come across that as well. There's a new question in as well, that could be directed at both of you, Teresa and Amy. So the question is there sufficient support and encouragement for women in agriculture and aquaculture businesses? If not, what is needed? So maybe, Teresa, you might want to respond first, and then maybe you can come back to Amy.
In aquaculture, well, we actually saw that there was a little bit of help needed, and I think what WISA, Women in Scottish Aquaculture, was created with that intention of helping women. That because it's also a male-dominated industry, there is a little bit of there was that lack of, especially 14 years ago when I started, that lack of networking. There is less, you don't get so friendly with other people, with other managers. So you were not going to places for some reason. Your network was smaller. It could have been different. It's very cultural as well, and it just happens. And it takes time to change things and get involved. And as sometimes is what Amy was saying is yeah, you get into a room and everybody is all males and stuff, and it's a bit. But it's been I think WISA has been a good example of support, and it has created not only WISA with the activities and other things, workshops or networking events, has created that network as well to help other women, and that and has encouraged women to help other women and men. There's been mentoring as well, and it's put the word out there of okay, we need suits that are our sizes, for example, or protective equipment that we can actually wear, and this is actually protecting us, not making our life more complicated and more dangerous. So small things like that. But it's also been very supportive. I've had an experience where I have been very supported by management, and being a woman is not being any different, but there are still policies that are not due to anything, but like maternity policies doesn't help women, and that's a policy problem more than cultural, but policy problems and things like that, and that stops you. Or I have found myself in, not being as the farmer's wife, but also just standing up with my boss, and me being asked about my kids and my boss being asked about the projects. So that sort of things, it's just a lot of cultural things that need to change, but things are changing, and I think what is needed is more role models, and that's the way when I'm involved in WISA, in Women in Scottish Aquaculture, and I think the way we've been trying to work so far is to put those role models there. So just to show that that's it's a job for everyone and for any woman, and encourage them to come. So as many as role models and positive stories as possible.
Thanks, Teresa. Amy, do you want to add anything around, support and encouragement?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with everything Teresa's saying. And there is a group, Women in Agriculture, that was set up a few years ago. So I think that is really helping women on the mainland, just getting together and having that network and that support, having specific meetings, and they even set up a specific support for training, for getting different training. So that has been really good. But again, it a lot of the things, so it's interesting in the young farmers, then there's a lot of women who lead the groups, and the national leaders are women, but then there's that gap after young farmers where it's typically the men go on and they've got the more leader dominated roles, like in the NFU and things like that. So I think there's certainly space for more support there, which is where the Women in Agriculture group comes in. But again, it's also about getting those childcare policies set, because it's obviously when women are having children and they're expected to be at home looking after them, when it should be that there's a fair policy within the farm to give the women the equal chance as the males.
Yeah. Thanks, Amy. I'll go to the next question that has come in. It comes back to what you said earlier, Amy, about having to say no to some opportunities sometimes. So as a question for both you and Teresa, basically the question is there anything you wanted to say no to, but you said yes, and you're now glad that you did? So I don't know if there's anything that springs to mind for either of you where you're glad you got involved with something, although it maybe was quite time consuming or, required a little bit of commitment from you.
Nothing very specific, but sometimes, there is events and we've been invited now to an event and we have to travel and all of that, and it's a lot of time consuming. You have to then balance it with the family and stuff, and sometimes in those sort of events where are very far away and you need to decide if it's going to be worthwhile on what you're going to get back for your business, and that you're always thinking, is this a no or is a yes? And sometimes it's worthwhile going, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes you said no and you don't know what you missed. So, but yeah, there is things like that happening. For me, normally it's events and things like that.
Anything from you, Amy?
I guess a big one for us would be we were on the TV program This Farm in Life, so we filmed that in 2018 and then it was shown in 2019. So me and my sister had a big discussion whether we should do it or not, and that certainly took up a lot of time and a lot more planning with cameras around and things. But I'm really glad that we did it. It showed that there's some good farming in Shetland and also young women farming, and I think we had a really good response. So that was certainly a positive when we didn't really know what we were putting ourselves in for.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been obviously a great showcase for you. So yeah, I can imagine it would have been very disruptive to your daily work, but hopefully it paid off for you to get involved with something like that. Great opportunity. Okay, we've got maybe time for a couple more questions. I'll come back to Teresa quickly. There's a question around, how do you think we can encourage more women to get into the aquaculture sector?
I think, and the way and the perspective I've always seen these things is to contribute with positive stories. I don't want to focus so much on the problem. That's my own perspective. So much on the problem. I've got a daughter as well, and I just want to show her the positive things. Obviously, there is things that I'm not hiding things from her, but I think you get more out of it when you encourage and you people by showing them that it's possible, or that there are women doing feeding fish or managing and things like that. So then it's not in their equation of, oh, this is not for me. Just remove that out of their equations. I think there's a lot of innovation, and I think meetings like this, where actually you can see fish farming is there's a lot of innovation on it. There is a lot of possibilities. It's a growing industry. So this sort of talks as well, I think it will. I hope that it will help to change the image that you could have from what is salmon farming. Is some of the barges that you go, or some of the wellboats that you go, they are like super modern spaceships like things. Not all, but so they just change the perception and show, yeah, the positive stories that we have.
Great, thank you, Teresa. Then there's one question that's for you, Amy, and for me. So the question is, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for women-led agricultural innovations in Scotland? So that's quite a big question. I don't know if you've got anything you might want to say before I give my response to that.
Yeah, that is a big question.
It's a big question, isn't it? I can jump in first. I guess I'm making quite a general statement here, but you know, like Claire outlined at the start, women obviously have, you know, a wide skill set, and you know, I think many of us, you know, are used to juggling lots of different priorities and different tasks in our private life and our professional life, and are very creative with it as well. So I think there's a lot of skills and ideas that we all have on how to make things better and run things more smoothly. And that's all things you can, you know, apply in your personal life, but you can also bring that into your professional life and see, you know, could this process, could this product, could this service, could the thing, the approach, could it be improved? Can anything be done to make it better and easier to use? And that's quite often, I guess, the starting point for an innovation, when you see the need, you see that there's something that's not really working right and you want to make it better. And I guess all of us should be confident to believe in our own skills and seek the support we need, and mentors, like we mentioned before, to help us make a change and see if we can make it happen to improve our own life, but also improve the lives of others. That's a very general statement, but I think that is universally true, probably. So I don't know, Amy, if you've got anything to add, if there's anything specific that you've maybe seen that wasn't working well for you and you changed something, or you've seen other people in the industry make changes to the way they do things that helped make it more smoothly or more efficient.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I guess it's just looking at your different strengths, especially with the physical kind of work that we have to deal with. There's some things that we have changed the way to do it so it can fit with us. So yeah, it's just about the different skills that women bring to the business, and especially diversification opportunities. They've certainly increased values on the farm and brought in more money with that. So that's a good opportunity there.
Thanks, Amy. There's one last question unanswered on Slido, so I'll just read it out and see if we can get a quick response from maybe both of you. So the question is, how can we better support female entrepreneurs in turning ideas into commercially viable solutions? So I don't know if you've got anything else that we haven't covered yet that you think might be worth mentioning there. What support could be provided?
From my perspective, I think, well, I mentioned it, but I think I've been part of one initiative now from Scottish Enterprise called Pathways to Scale, and that was directed to women. So I think there is support there that you can look into, and for focus on women, which is good. Is good for us. So yeah, I think it's trying to find out all of those initiatives that will help you as a woman. Yeah, that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
Thanks, Teresa.
I think, yeah, being open to all the opportunities. There is a few good things out there like Scottish Enterprise and Business Gateway. I also did the Rural Enterprise course. That was really good initiative, and it gave you some one-to-one mentoring time, but also again got you into a group and increase your network of rural business leaders. So again, just being open to all the opportunities that are there.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, and there've been a couple of comments on Slido around the fact that obviously it can be quite isolating to establish a business, especially in a rural area, especially in agriculture. And then someone else was asking about any organizations or networks that we could recommend. So what I'll do is in the follow-up email that we'll send out after the webinar, we'll include a list of a certain number of organizations that could provide some of those networks that we talked about. And obviously there'll be more out there than just the ones I mentioned, but it's usually a bit of a snowball effect. Once you've kind of contacted one organization, they'll introduce you to others who might also be able to support you. So it's always good to take a first step with someone and then it will develop from there. Okay, thank you everyone for submitting questions, and Amy and Teresa for answering so kindly. So that concludes the Q&A session. So we'll hand back to Claire just now to talk us through a couple of key concepts around innovation, and then I'll conclude the webinar after that session.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Andrea. So just in turn, Andrea, as mentioned at the end of the webinar, is going to talk through some of the innovation support from Highlands and Islands that is available. But I just wanted to share with you some kind of concept models which are very simple, but are potentially and hopefully quite useful to some of you, just to give you an opportunity to stand back and sort of rain check where you are on your journey, and some of the gaps that may need to be filled in terms of some of your thinking time about your business and what your plans are for its future. So as I say, these are relatively simple kind of concepts to follow, but one sort of tried and tested one is this 5-stage steps to a new product development process. So that's not necessarily a new product, it could be a new business, it could be a new service, or just even a new technology idea that you want to test or take to market. So obviously the first stage is to have an idea, so a vision for your business, your product, your service. And then the second one is to really stress test that in terms of really thinking about what problem it might solve. Quite often ideas are free-flowing, but they do need to connect to a particular problem that you've identified within the market. The third stage is to then validate that within the market. So that's speaking to potential customers, family, friends, anyone in the industry that you're connected with, just again to really stress test that there is a viable market there. And then to really start to have a look at more sort of detailed research and insight in terms of the best, what the go-to-market approach is going to be in terms of the priority market. And it's only then that once you have that you have the bones, I guess, to create a backbone to take to a business plan to then look at commercializing. So just before I move on to a couple of other concepts for you to have a think about, I wondered if you would be able to take part in our final Slido question today, which is really about where you might be on your innovation journey. That could be to do with your business, a product, or something new that you want to take to market, and just letting us know whether you are at the kind of initial visionary stage. You're looking at what problem you're trying to solve. You're looking at taking it and validating it with potential target audiences. You're trying to create a concrete understanding of the most likely target audience that it will be relevant for, or whether you're actually in sort of full steam ahead in terms of either commercializing your business or operating and running your business. So if you could complete that, that would be really useful for us just to understand where everyone is on their business life cycle. It looks at this as if actually the majority of the audience today are looking at sort of validating an idea. So they have an idea, and what is really important right now is to start to validate that with the audience. So I think that some of the ideas or thoughts that you might want to have a think about when you're speaking to your target audience are questioning them about specific pain points, asking how others might solve a problem, what your target audience is doing as an alternative at the moment. I mean, an alternative is quite often that it is doing nothing or doing it yourself. But being very clear about what the alternative looks like in the current state is really important. And also what other new technology or alternatives might a target audience member actually consider in the future. Also starting to scout information around their views and attitudes towards sustainability, their propensity to purchase around things that are going to impact the environment and climate change, how sensitive they might be to price, what kind of pricing model might suit them. We've mentioned kind of alternatives, but also sort of thinking about the competition, what else is in the market, why are they drawn to them or not, what puts them off. Is this a product or service that requires a degree of self-service, or is this a transactional product or service that's for sale? And to what degree can the business idea, product or service be enhanced operationally and in terms of efficiency and profitability through things like digital transformation? So really starting to, for those of you that have highlighted that you're at that validation stage, we would encourage you to shape your questions just to really stress test the idea. Sorry, I missed two parts there. So, I was talking about pricing. So, I think pricing innovation is very interesting at the moment, not just within the sectors that we're talking about today, but in a lot of sectors. Consumers are moving towards paying for a lot of products and services on a sort of pay-as-you-go payment plan, subscription models. And whilst that might seem slightly out of reach for us in this sector, there isn't, when consumers have started to change their behavior in one sector, it's actually much easier to transform that into another. So it could be that you have a business or product innovation idea that is simply about delivering it to the same target audience, but with a different pricing model. Also thinking about prospective and relevant partners. So, you don't have to operationally deliver everything end to end to your target audience. There are ways that you can bring other organizations into play to help you deliver part of that offering. That could be through design, manufacturing, or delivery, for example. And then finally, just starting to map the prioritization of ideas. So really starting to draw up how you are going to commercialize your product from both an income and revenue perspective, how you will be making money. So figuring out the resources that you require, but how you might also leverage existing capabilities or people that you know. Obviously, collaboration is something that can create a huge amount of efficiencies. As Amy mentioned, there is an outreach on Shetland for her to tap into, and that is really important in terms of saving both time and money. how quickly you might be able to scale, which markets you'll be looking at, and how long will it take you to take your product or service to market. And then finally looking at the sort of strategic fit of your product and service to the particular sector. Whilst you might be looking at the agriculture or aquaculture sector at the moment for a product or service, there might very well be the opportunity to start looking at diversifying into other sectors as well. So using these tools and checklists are really useful just to make sure that you have stretched yourself in terms of stress testing your business idea. But I am sure that the feedback on that last Slido question will be really useful to Highlands and Islands to help start to shape some of their innovation services moving forward. So thank you for that. I'm just going to hand back over to Andrea just now, just to summarise some of the innovation support that is currently available from Highlands and Islands.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, so as I said earlier, we do have a specific team within our organisation that provides specific advice around innovation. So we have specialist colleagues who can help a business with the development of an idea, and they will know obviously what support is available through us, through Highlands and Islands Enterprise, but also through other organizations and other networks. So one of the key things they do is make sure that you know of all the avenues that are available to seek support. One of the key things we also advise on is IP, so intellectual property, because obviously if you generate an idea, you want to make sure that it belongs to you and that it cannot be used by others without you receiving a benefit for that. So that's quite important in some industries. So again, there is specialist support available for that. Then the second pillar that you can see there on the slide is around knowledge exchange. And this is what we're doing today. You know, we're hosting webinars and events, training courses and learning journeys where we basically connect people to each other and with the opportunity to learn about something new, something different. So that's the second pillar. The third pillar is funding. So that is obviously money that is available for specific development projects when a new product or service is being developed. And that's usually quite a significant type of development. So something that's really new, that maybe hasn't been done before, that is a bit more risky, that requires some support. And again, my colleagues can advise on what we can support, but there's also other funding pots out there offered by others that might be more suitable, and they can advise. And they can also support you in the best approach on how to write a funding application. So they can't write a funding application for you, but they can give you the top tips on what you really need to consider when you put an application into us or other organizations. And that's really helpful. And I would really encourage you to make use of that advice. Coming back to the knowledge exchange, we do have a few events planned for this year. So one of the events is called an Ideas for Growth event. And that will be held in 8 different locations across the Highlands and Islands, probably in June. So please keep an eye out on our social media channels and also on our website where we will advertise those events. So there might be one around the corner from you coming up. And as we said earlier, we're also hoping to have a specific follow-on event for today. And we would obviously look for feedback from you on what that could look like and what you would like to see covered. And some of you have already let us know, for example, when they might be available for a face-to-face event and or not, and if they would even like that to happen. So I just want to close the webinar now by thanking our 2 speakers, Amy and Teresa, again, for giving up their time today in their busy lives and sharing their insights and experiences with us. I think impact is kind of the word that came up a lot in both of your presentations. So Teresa, you talked about the big impact of innovative ideas, and I think we've definitely seen that coming through your presentation. I'm interested to see what happens next with you, because I think you get involved with a lot of interesting things in the future, probably too. And Amy, you talked a lot about local impact and local engagement, I think, which was really great to hear. And, being mindful about the value that you provide and that your business provides. I think, again, that's a kind of a key insight there from you that I'll take away from today. And also thank you to Claire, obviously, for hosting us today and talking us through some of the concepts around innovation and the scene setting at the start. So really appreciate your time today as well, Claire. Thank you. And yeah, just to reiterate, we will follow up with an email where we'll share the recording. We'll have the Slido open till the end of next week, actually, so you can add in more responses there as well, and your feedback on today's session. I'll be pulling together a list of organizations that might be helpful for you all to connect with. I can't promise it's a full list, but I'll do my best to include as much as I know about. And yeah, we'll hopefully plan a follow-on event. I haven't got any details, but I definitely would like to organize something before the summer holidays. So please keep an eye out on social media and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well, just to keep in the loop. But it's been great to have you all here today. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll hope to see you very, very soon in person, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.